You're watching Wired Up Retro. It's episode number 59, and today we're building on what we were doing in the last couple of episodes with the 8-bit DOE Retro Receiver. I initially showed this on my channel back in Wired Up Retro number 48, and in that video I showed ways that allow this to connect not just to the Genesis, which is what it's designed for, but to the Atari 7800 and Atari 2600. The first method I used to connect it was with an adapter called the Seagull78. This is made by Edladdin. And so this will go in your 7800. So it just plugs right in there. And once you've got it connected and you got the console turned on, it lights up with a blue light. If you were to try to direct connect this straight up to the 7800 or the 2600 without this adapter, it gives a very dull blue light, which means it's not going to work. So I'm just letting you know, if you want this to work on your older consoles, you're going to need an adapter to do that. Also in that episode, Wired Up Retro episode number 48, I showed that this particular Sega Genesis controllers to Atari Systems adapter cable was expected to work, but it was for some reason not functioning. So I said on that episode, you're not going to be able to use that. But I have since tried it, and for some reason, boom, hey, it's working, just like the Edladdin Seagull78. Now this allows one-button controllers to function on your 7800, not two-button Genesis controllers like the Edladdin Seagull78 does. So just be aware, if you're using this, it limits your functionality on the 7800, but it will work. It also works on the 2600, just like the Seagull78 adapter does with this 8-bit DOE Retro Receiver. All right, so just letting you know, this Retro Receiver receives wireless signals from a variety of different Bluetooth controllers, which I'm showing a list of below here. So the main objective on today's episode is to get a Nintendo Switch Joy-Con working wirelessly on the 7800 as well as the Atari 2600. And then I'm going to try to pair up two Joy-Cons to use on the two joystick games. Okay, for the Atari 7800, there was only one of those made, and that's Robotron 2084. Whereas for the Atari 2600, there were a number of them made. In fact, there's going to be one made not too long from now. I believe early next year, we're expecting a Robotron 2084 homebrew to come out, and we're very excited, looking forward to playing that very much. And so anyways, let's just go ahead and, for the 2600, plug in this Sega Genesis controllers to Atari Systems adapter cable. I actually have two of those. I'll get this plugged in. Yeah, so once you got that plugged in, then you plug in your 8-bit DOE Retro Receiver, designed for the Genesis, blinking with the blue light. And once you got that blinking, you can just grab your Nintendo Switch Joy-Con and just auto-connect it. So let's show you how to use that. Here we go. Uh-oh, where did he go? See if I can catch him. Ah, missed him. That's such a terrible sound. Level 1 complete. All right, another option here is to play a 7800 game. So I'm going to show you the Seagull78 in action, although I could just as easily use the Sega Genesis controllers to Atari Systems adapter cable. So it works without any lag, just like it was on the 2600. Shoo! All right. So you can see that the controllers are working well. Single controller with one button. Alright, so I got Robotron up on the screen, and I've got two of these 8-bit DOE retro receivers, and I also have two of the Best Electronics adapters, and I've got them all plugged in and connected wirelessly. So let's go ahead and play the game. It would be played with these horizontally, but I'm thinking maybe I'd rather play the game with them in a vertical position, and putting them in this Nintendo Switch coupler like that would make playing this really an awesome experience. And I did this on the Atari 5200 in our last episode using two cables that I showed you how to make, and these are controller position changing adapters. So the one on my left hand is a 90 degrees clockwise controller position changing adapter. So I'm going to go ahead and unplug this. Okay, so I cut away while I set it up, and I've got everything all connected. The two 90-degree position changing adapters are in place, this one being the 90-degree clockwise, and this one being the 90-degree counterclockwise controller adapter. And the 8-bit DOE retro receivers are connected wirelessly to my Switch Joy-Cons, which are vertically oriented now. So let's see how this works. Wonderfully. It's awesome. Oh. You know, I made some serious progress in this game, and you know, honestly, I can do a little better in this version than the 5200 version. It just seems like it's a little less intense, but it's definitely hard, no doubt about it. But what a blast. What a great game. It really is very fun. If I could only get an extra life here. Oh, so close. You know, that might actually be my highest score ever. So I really enjoy the controller. All right, so I want to show you some tips on the Atari 2600. You're not going to be using this particular controller holder with the 2600. I've got something else in mind for you. So let me set that up. Now what we're about ready to do with these two-stick games for the 2600, whether you put them in a 7800 or a 2600, is not going to involve the little 90 degrees clockwise and 90 degrees counterclockwise cables. So let's just go ahead and take them out. So you're left with just the 8-bit DOE retro receivers, as well as, obviously, the Sega controllers to Atari Systems adapter cables. So those will just get plugged directly in to those, and that's really all you need for these next opportunities to play some two-stick games. Well, all right, if you're going to play on the Atari 2600 this two-stick game Stargate, or any of them that are two-stick games, you might be a little confused. You're thinking, well, why would you take those adapters out of there? Wouldn't you want to use this vertically? Well, the thing is, yeah, you can use it vertical on Robotron because there's no buttons involved. It's just purely a stick game only. But when you use buttons on the Switch Joy-Cons, when it's used on an Atari console with these methods, you're going to have to hold it sideways. And if you're firing away here, but then every once in a while needing to do Inviso by pressing this like that, and maybe doing a smart bomb by pressing one of these buttons, it's weird because you're holding it this way. It's got a grip. I don't know. Let's take it out of here. We definitely don't want to use the grip, this particular grip. We want to use a different grip. And I got this grip at Etsy, and this is called the one-handed Joy-Con grip. Okay, so the way it works is you put this into this side. I use the green as the primary primary controller for this, and then on the right side you slide in your second Joy-Con, and see how that's designed so that these two can be kind of butted up against each other. You'll actually hold it like this to play your game. So you'll be firing away here, controlling with the joystick, and on the opposing side we'll do Inviso by pressing, I think it's this way, and then one of these buttons will be your smart bomb. So you'll be basically, you have to feel your way on the underside of the controller to know what you're doing, but up top here you can view what you're doing. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. You're going to have a two joystick setup gamepad here for these two-stick games on the 2600. Let's give it a try. All right, we got our game up, and my Sega controllers to Atari systems adapter cables are plugged in, and 8-bit do retro receivers for the Genesis are plugged in and connected to each Joy-Con. I did actually do them one at a time, with the one for the port 1 of the 2600 connected to the Joy-Con you normally would hold in your right hand if you're using it on the Switch, and the one for your left hand gets plugged into port 2. All right, so yeah, let's go ahead and play the game. We'll see how it goes. So right now I'm just concentrating on this controller with its single fire button. It seems to be working pretty well, although that snuck up on me. Okay, let's get some ships blown up. I'm going to try the smart bomb here. Seems to work fine. And we got Inviso, which that's actually hyperspace. I toggled the joystick on the opposite side kind of in a downward position, and it put me into a hyperspace situation. And then I think you toggle it the other way to do Inviso. Yeah, there we go. It's almost cheating. All right. All right. Get him. Okay, one down. All right. So I also want to show you a little Spy Hunter and see how that works. All right, let's give Spy Hunter a try. I'm going to basically be able to speed up with the joystick and then slow down with the joystick, and then also left and right, obviously. Fire button right here. On the other side of the controller is a single button that I'm going to be using to do oil slicks. Right now I don't have that power up for an oil slick. Oh, got me. So anytime I see a red truck, the idea is to get on board and it'll give me oil slicks, possibly. But first I gotta perform, I've actually got to do well under pressure here. There we go. Oil slick, okay. There we go. Another defensive weapon there. I'm getting somewhere. Oh. All right. It's not a bad score. You know, if you can get 16,000 or maybe 20, then you're doing pretty good. So I've really had a good time playing these games. There are more where this came from. Two-stick games like Solaris or Radar Lock can be fun. I think Riddle of the Sphinx is also a two-button game. There's also one called Video Life, which I believe is a two-stick game. It might be a one stick and one button and then another button. That's probably what it is. But anyways, a lot of fun to be had with the Switch Joy-Cons on the Atari 2600 and 7800, and as I showed in the last episode, the Atari 5200. Now, if you, let's say, wanted to take this right Joy-Con off of here, and let's say we know it's plugged into the left side port. Actually, let's take the one that's plugged into the right side port, and we'll go ahead and unplug this one. And if you were to, let's say, plug in a regular Atari joystick, then you could, in theory, take this, the one that's plugged into port 2, and attach it to the Atari joystick in a certain way, whether it's, you know, using an adhesive or maybe another idea that you might have. That would enable you to have you know, two-button games playable like Spy Hunter or Stargate. So, you know, I want to show you that. I've got a method that might be worth just looking at so you can see how that works. So when you're playing Spy Hunter, you can fire the main fire button here while using the main stick, and then you'd use your Switch Joy-Con. This is the button for oil slicks. So, I mean, you could stick that right there, and that button would be ready to be hit right there. Another way to do it is to go this direction and hit the button while it's connected to the controller like that. So either way can work. I think this might kind of get in the way of your hand a bit, make it uncomfortable. So this might actually be the best way to access that. So how are you going to connect these? Well, I have these Scotch restickable tabs, and basically just take one of them here off, peel that off. When it says restickable, it means in the future, if they get a little gummy or whatever, you rinse them with water, and you can use them again, and they'll be sticky again. Okay? So you'll be playing the game, and then when you need to hit that oil slick, you'd select that button every time you need to. Okay? And it actually stays on there pretty good. You have to give it a good tug to get it to pop off. So, yeah, it's actually on very well. Then when you're done with it, you can just peel it off and put it right back. Put the Scotch cellophane over the top and slap it back in here. And you stored it away for another, I don't know, week or month or whatever it is that you want to go with. Another thing I thought of was buying some of these. They were, you know, I don't know, $2-3 for party wristbands, but I noticed that the red ones look kind of nice, so I took my gem stick and I wrapped them around the side, two of them, and in between the two here I put this little piece of metal. It's a bendable piece of metal, and so once that's in there, it stays put. Okay, so then you could take your Switch Joy-Con and you could put it right there and get access to that button while hitting this button. Okay, so that's another way to do it. Again, how are you going to connect them? Well, you could avoid adhesive and just use, I don't know, Velcro, slide that in there and around right under the stick, and maybe you put a second one in there over the stick on this side so that it'll, you know, have a couple of points. The thing is, it can wobble, so that's not great. So again, using that Scotch restickable tabs might be nice. You don't have to put any tab on your controller. Really, nothing's going to damage your controller here. So anyway, yeah, having that there, you could use the other Joy-Con if you'd rather do that. But yeah, once it's on there, and it stays put, you can actually have access to 2 buttons using your Atari 2600 controllers, your joysticks that are your favorites. All right, other ideas that I've had. I took a couple of these party wristbands and wrapped them around my Space Age joystick. This is getting kind of crazy at this point. But again, you know, if you found that you wanted to use Velcro straps to connect to that rubber, I found that you could put that there and have a side button, and then you also have the trigger on the Space Age joystick. But yeah, you have to use one hand on this while hitting the trigger and also having this. So you might want to have your middle finger on the trigger and index finger on that, and then you could use the right hand to do the directionals. Kind of interesting. I don't know. I mean, there's all sorts of ways you could do this. Interesting ways. You could even do this without using the Scotch restickable tabs, just by sliding this underneath that and strapping it to the side, and then you just hold it pretty tight, hitting the button. You can even drive this up in between these 2 straps so that the button is accessed in between the straps. So anyway, all right, I had to share some of my crazy ideas. So let's play one more and then we'll call it a day. All right, so I've got radar lock plugged in, and my gem stick has the band around it with the metal. And I've got the Scotch adhesive on there to connect the 2. The only reason this second controller is connected is to change from guns to missiles. And you do that by just toggling the joystick. You have to wait for the beep sound. All right, we're going to switch back to guns. And then back to missiles. All right, and then back to guns. So you're getting the idea. With this game, you just mess with the joystick and it changes from missiles to guns. Fun little game. All right, so I hope you enjoyed the episode. We got more in store, so definitely subscribe if you haven't already, and definitely give us a thumbs up. I look forward to talking to you in the comments. My next Wired Up Retro is coming up in the next week, 2 weeks or so, somewhere in there. And it's going to have to do with using a very old controller from the mid-90s on a PlayStation 4 and possibly Xbox One to play some flight games. And that's all I'm going to say right now. Let's put it this way. It took a lot of adapters to get this to work, and I'm pretty sure it's just going to be more for the sake of being interesting than actually practical. But it's pretty cool, and it has a little to do with VR. So let's just put it this way. Outer space, VR. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. I hope you have a nice day out there, and keep gaming.